bright and shiny with WAPTEK. Here we go. I'm going to be doing the response before I read the insult that triggered this. Yeah, this is about a specific video, and yes, this is about people missing the point, but claiming not to. For the children. When a child experiences a qualifying episode during which the child's whereabouts were unknown to the primary caretaker, doesn't matter what kind of caretaker, just whoever's minding the kid, with the result that the caretaker was alarmed for at least an hour and tried to locate the child, the episode had to qualify only by it being a person under age 18. In the case where the child had a caretaker of any kind, 99.8% of them returned home alive or were located by the time the study data was collected and finished for a 1-year period of time. That could mean that they were missing for a day or an hour, all the way up to a year. Maximum duration was a year. 0.2% of all the caretaker missing children had not returned home or been located by the time of the end of the study. Now, why is this study so lame? Follow-up. Getting people to follow up on something like this is very hard, and I'm going to show you why. Remember, the exclamation from people who are being ideologically driven to make you frightened, stranger danger. Ignorant by not telling you where this information comes from. Angry because it triggers that response because they're children, for the children, and pushing you to ignore anyone who tells you that you're being driven by these three things. The reasoning behind them is ideological in every single case. I've never heard of anybody who says that they care for the children actually mean it. It is a sales technique. Never forget this. If somebody says, well, this is about the children, immediately assume they're lying through their teeth and they're trying to get money, fame, fortune, or power. I've only seen 1 or 2 people who ever got any attention by saying that actually meant it. This is the form of exploitation of children that I object to. The vast majority of the ones who didn't show up after follow-up were runaways. They weren't abducted by anybody. Period. They were not abducted. Now we're going to do the FBI stuff. The FBI reports are based on them prosecuting people, being able to go after people, and them being very open about being suspicious of people. They'll accuse someone of causing something bad. Out of a total of 4,883 FBI reports, out of 440,625 were classified as missing under circumstances that the disappearance was not voluntary, like abduction or kidnapping. That's 1% maximum. But then again, this is the FBI reports that come from the local and county and state going to the FBI because they have to do it as an FBI project. So at that point, this would be worst case scenario. By the time it goes to the FBI, it's a 1% chance of it being abduction. Again, that's worst case scenario from the FBI standpoint. This is depending on your definition of who is missing or not. Missing or exploited children for a 1-year period of time based on a study of it occurring before 2002. Why is this quoted all the time? It's the only one anybody quotes. It's a raving pain in the rump to get this stuff collected, even in our modern age. And I'd like to remind people that you can still go on Facebook and see people posting a missing persons report about someone who isn't missing. It's from 10 years ago, and they're currently in college, and they're getting a little fed up with their picture being up on the net. And yeah, a lot of those pages are saying, ooh, go here to a GoFundMe. Really? Out of 797,500 children reporting missing over a 1-year period of time. So I'm going to round that up to around almost 800,000 children missing in a year. Reported that way. the listing of outcomes, not callbacks later say, yeah, we found him. Yeah, majority of them were people calling back, yeah, we found the kid. 203,000, almost 204,000, were abducted by family members. 58,000 were abducted by non-relatives, and in all cases, found and retrieved. This is what happened. 115 were actually taken by a stranger. At all. This is under suspicion. The rest returned quickly enough that the case was filed as solved with no information in it, except it just says child found. In the European Union, because they smush everything together, you get a range of percentages. 250,000 European children are reported missing every year, averaged statistically as really reported missing. And I'm going to tell everybody that meme of you have to wait 48 hours or whatever arbitrary period of time before you say a kid's missing. That's not really true at all. That's not even true for adults. 50 to 60% of them in the European Union out of 250,000, that's a round number obviously, were runaways. 25 to 30% were abducted by their parents in a dispute, usually a custody dispute. They're fighting over kids. 2 to 10% were simply unaccompanied migrant workers who decided to go off and work on their own. They weren't missing, they just went off to work and left, because if you didn't know this, in many European countries you're considered an adult at 15 or sometimes 13. It depends on whether you can work or not. That's really old school. The United States used to be the same way. But we're going to include all of them, even in cultures that say you're a grown-up as soon as you're able to shovel X number of amount of dirt or plow an acre of land or whatever. 2 to 5% under, depending on the year and the month of day, are criminal third-party abductions and actual stranger danger. So they have in Europe 2 to 5%. In the United States, it works out to be either 1%, and that's under the cases where it finally goes to the FBI because it hasn't been solved. I think they base it on if it takes more than a week to find the kid. And even with the FBI, it's 1% of them are actually abducted by some stranger or whatever. The rest weren't. And I'd like to remind you that most of these numbers are based on the kid returning eventually within a 1-year period of time. I know personally dozens of people who went off at the age of 16 or 17 and ran off to a foreign country because they just wanted to experience life. They just didn't tell their parents, or more accurately, they told their parents. The parents just said no, and they said, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. That's a missing persons report. Where is he? He's probably in Barbados or whatever. I know one guy who went to New Zealand and said he'd never come back. Then he got sick and came back. That was a missing persons report. They knew damn good and well where he was. He was in this continent. I won't even bring up the guy who went to Australia. I don't even get why. I'm sorry. Their dogs are poisonous. What the hell? Anyway, next. Seriously, Australia, what is it with all the poisonous animals? You have teddy bears that kill people. What the hell? Anyway, I'm going to repeat this. This is based on caretaker. People who are unaccompanied are also listed, depending on the statistics. It still works out the same way. Unless you provide proof of your claims of some group of people abducting children and doing something to them, it doesn't matter what it is, you are defending, by trivializing the subject, you are defending the subject of missing and exploited children because you are exploiting them. I know of only maybe half a dozen people who are homeless who aren't runaways. They're not missing or exploited. They're lost. You're not allowed to ignore facts. Unless you edit to acknowledge the point made in a video, or at least contradict the point made in a video, it's not going to show up. This is going. I'm stamping my foot. The John Podesta handkerchief Pizzagate meme was a lie in the first place. Stop repeating it. Your comment will never be seen. The comment about the Sandler Foundation or Field House being some code word, or demolishing cheeses. None of this is going to show up except in this video. Statistics on missing children for 2016 aren't available because most of the time there's no point in filing them. By the time they finish, before the ink's dry, they found the kid. The rest of the time, over half the time, they're runaways. The rest of the time, it's parents fighting over kids, or relatives hiding a kid from an abusive family, or they're just running away again from yet another foster home. My family was a foster home for a bunch of kids. One kid from Florida. Some of them are hiding in a safe house or at a friend's house to get away from abusive parents or an abusive other relative. And I've got to tell you this, the most common occurrence for children being exploited physically are from relatives, not from some stranger or from somebody you want to believe is literally a witch or a demon. You are contributing to the exploitation of children because you're exploiting for the children to push your bull crap. You are exploiting children. You are evil. And you are banned. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all of that.